Compensation in the works for traders affected by tainted pork scare. 2 people killed in a collision with a truck. And a man who killed autistic son is jailed for 4 years. Good evening, thanks for joining us. Pork traders who complained they were unfairly impacted by the tainted meat scare might get compensation. The payouts would likely be in line with market prices. Anne-Marie Sim reports.
Last week, the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department discovered that more than 300 pigs imported from the mainland had tested positive for 2 drugs commonly used to treat asthma in humans. Despite the positive test, around 40 contaminated pigs ended up being sent to 27 retailers across the city. The government seized and destroyed more than 1,000 kilograms of pork and offal from those 27 retailers and published their names, despite the fact some of them did not source their meat from the affected distributors. Secretary for Food and Health, Ko Wing-man, said today the government needed to identify who was wrongly identified before the amount of compensation could be considered.
I think because today is the timeline that we have set for the retail shops as well as the dealers to hand in their purchase and transaction record. So it is very important that the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department colleagues today to keep a very close working liaison with the dealers.
But he says the government is considering a compensation range within the market price. One of those on the government's list of 27 retailers affected complained that it did not source its produce from either distributor involved in the incident, yet its reputation has taken a beating in the week. Since the scandal broke, business has dropped 30%. While this vendor said the damage to his reputation is incalculable. If the government was going to compensate retailers, the least they could offer was the market price. The Food and Health Bureau will hold a special meeting with the trade on Monday to find ways to prevent tainted pork from being sold here. Anne-Marie Sim, TVB News.
2 people were killed this evening when a car and a container truck crashed into each other near Shatin. The car was smashed to pieces. The 33-year-old male driver and a 27-year-old man were killed instantly. Police said the accident happened at around 8 p.m. as the car was heading along Taipo Road towards Kowloon. Officers suspect the driver lost control of his vehicle, crossed the lane, and crashed into the truck. Police say there were skid marks at the scene, and they are calling on witnesses to contact the authorities. An unemployed father who admitted to killing his autistic son has been sentenced to 4 years in prison in a case a high court judge called tragic. Again, here's Anne-Marie Sim.
It was a tragic tale played out at the High Court of a father under pressure and a son ending up dead. Choi Sin-hung, a 61-year-old jobless man, was in the dock today. He was accused of killing his 15-year-old autistic son in June 2014 at their home in Yuen Long. The autopsy report showed the boy had sustained more than 100 knife wounds. Choi had denied the original charge of murder but had pleaded guilty to manslaughter. In handing down her sentence, Justice Maggie Poon said the court does not condone the taking of a life, but called it a tragedy in which a man sacrificed himself to protect the rest of his family. She noted that before the incident, Choi was a responsible father who took good care of the teenager despite his behavioural issues, which included attacking others, yet Choi had never hit his son. The judge said the defendant was stressed and had lost his mind at the time of the murder, while also suffering from severe depression. The court heard that Choi became the boy's sole carer so that his wife could go to work. In sentencing, the judge also took into account that Choi had killed his eldest son, fearing the teenager who had been aggressive could one day hurt his wife and younger son. Despite suffering from depression, he never told anyone of his problems, which ended up in his losing control, the judge said. Justice Poon said she handed down a lighter sentence of 4 years after considering that Choi has the support of his family and that he was suffering from long-term severe depression. She added that Choi's psychiatric evaluation indicated the likelihood of his reoffending is low. She told Choi that his son had lost his life and he had lost a son, which was a punishment and pain he would have to live with for the rest of his life. Anne-Marie Sim, TVB News.
Health authorities are warning of a growing risk of mosquito-borne diseases in the next few months. A massive mosquito eradication operation will be launched next week. Rachel Leung reports.
Since the middle of July, the city has recorded what are believed to be the year's first local infections of dengue fever and Japanese encephalitis. The first Japanese encephalitis virus positive sample of a mosquito species was also found in June. The Center for Health Protection has warned of a growing risk of mosquito-borne diseases as people return from their summer vacations, such as Southeast Asia, where dengue fever is prevalent, and the Olympics in Brazil, which has been hit by the Zika outbreak.
We have the mosquito, we have the right environment. If a traveler carry the virus, Zika virus, into Hong Kong, then if that person is being bitten by the Zika mosquito, that means Aedes albopictus in Hong Kong, the disease can be spread in Hong Kong. If we cannot control the mosquito population, the disease can take root in Hong Kong and become endemic or cause an outbreak.
The Food and Environmental Hygiene Department has mapped out anti-mosquito measures for the next 3 months. Rounds of intensive mosquito prevention and control exercises will be carried out from August to October across the city by various government departments. The department also says a third phase of the territory-wide anti-mosquito campaign will be launched on Monday and run for 10 weeks. Members of the public are advised to continue to use insect repellents for another 14 days after returning to Hong Kong. Rachel Leung, TVB News.
Customs officers have arrested a private tutor for lying about his qualifications. The Customs and Excise Department received complaints that a tutor lied about being the head of a secondary school's chemistry department. After an initial probe, customs officers arrested a 50-year-old man at a tutorial center in Tsim Sha Tsui. An investigation continues. On the U.S. presidential campaign trail, Democrat Hillary Clinton has accused Republican Donald Trump of inciting violence when he urged gun rights activists to challenge her potential presidency. Tony Sabine reports.
Words matter, my friends. And if you are running to be president or you are president of the United States, words can have tremendous consequences. Yesterday, we witnessed the latest in a long line of casual comments from Donald Trump that cross the line. His casual inciting of violence. I am humbled and moved by the Republicans who are willing to stand up and say that Donald Trump doesn't represent their values. Not only as Republicans, but as Americans.
The Democratic hopeful fired back as her Republican rival was accused of encouraging Second Amendment people, or those who support gun rights in America, to take matters into their own hands against her presidency. Trump now insists he wasn't trying to instigate or suggest violence. He said his comment on Tuesday referred to the unity and political power of those who support the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. And on the campaign trail yesterday, yet more tough rhetoric, this time over Islamic State.
In many respects, they honor President Obama. ISIS is honoring President Obama. He is the founder of ISIS. He's the founder of ISIS, okay? He's the founder. He founded ISIS. And I would say the co-founder would be crooked Hillary Clinton. We unleashed fury all over the Middle East. And it was a terrible mistake. And then Obama came in, and normally you want to clean up. He made a bigger mess out of it. He made such a mess. And then you had Hillary with Libya. So sad.
Is all of this helping or hurting Trump in November? One poll out yesterday put him 15 points behind Clinton. Tony Sabine, TVB News.
Well, meanwhile, a man who spent 3 hours scaling the glass facade of Trump Tower in New York City yesterday, he said he was seeking a private audience with Donald Trump. The 19-year-old Virginian man used large suction cups and a harness to fasten himself to the side of the Manhattan skyscraper. He was also wearing a backpack. The man climbed as high as the 21st floor before police grabbed him and hauled him in through an open window. He was arrested on charges of reckless endangerment and criminal trespass. Police said he would undergo psychiatric evaluation. Baltimore officials are promising to carry out sweeping reforms after a scathing U.S. Justice Department report found that police in the mostly black city routinely violate the civil rights of black residents. The 163-page report found that black residents have been regularly subjected to stops, arrests, strip searches, and excessive force. Investigators say black residents have been stopped 3 times as often as white residents.
Only 3.7% of the police department's more than 300,000 pedestrian stops from January 2010 to May of 2015 resulted in officers issuing a citation or making an arrest. Many of these stops and the resulting frisks lacked constitutional justification.
The report documents what black residents have been saying for years, that a zero-tolerance enforcement strategy has routinely singled out, roughed up, or otherwise mistreated them, often for no reason.
They don't want you to challenge their authority. Like if they stop me and I say, why y'all keep stopping me? Now I'm challenging their authority, so they're going to use whatever force, and it usually came by putting the handcuffs on real tight to shut me up.
The investigation was prompted by the April